I'm Tom Gregory. I'm VP of Sales and Partnerships at Lifesight. Thanks for joining me today. Quick question, show of hands, if I can. Who's on the brand side? Who's on the brand side in the room? Okay, cool. Any agency folks in the house? Awesome, fantastic, love that. And any publishers, media, platforms, vendors? Okay, awesome. We got the trifecta. That's great. Very quick introduction about Lifesight. If you haven't heard about Lifesight, we're a unified marketing measurement platform. We help businesses that we work with on the brand side, the agency side, and the platform side measure the impact of their marketing channels, campaigns, activity in numerous different ways. We see measurement as a growth engine, and it should allow businesses to make better, more profitable, more incremental business decisions. So Peter Drucker, the father of management, he invented the infamous SMART framework for businesses. His quote really resonates. Really the reason why we measure. We measure so that we can improve performance, improve the return that you are getting on your valuable marketing budgets and ad dollars. There's so much talk about measurement, but I think it's really important to, reflect on why we're measuring. If we can't act on what we're measuring, then it's also partly futile measuring in the first place. So I think this is a really, really important point. Now, let's look at the current attribution problem. The attribution problem, which this slide illustrates, I think, very, very well. And over the last 3 days, we've spoken to so many people at our booth about, their attribution challenges and this situation, this exact kind of situation comes up time and time again. If we look at this nice gentleman here and this typical customer journey where someone initially sees a brand, a product, for example, on a mobile device, a mobile ad, later on sees that same brand, that same ad, sees a TVC execution on TV or CTV, linear or CTV. A few days later is exposed to some out of home, and then later, at a later stage, goes to research the product online, clicks on a search ad, and of course, if we're looking at last click or we're looking at touch-based attribution, the 100% of that credit goes to that search ad, and that obviously is neglecting so many of the other touch points, and this is the big challenge. So. Within the digital ecosystem, so digital ad platforms can still be tracked. The journey can be tracked to a certain extent. They say that sort of 20% of all online traffic is now, not trackable due to tracking limitations, signal loss, all of these things that we're very aware of. Not to mention all of your offline and all of your sort of top of funnel touch points where there are no clicks. So how do we assign the credit that they deserve, to really be able to make the correct decisions? The other main limitation of, let's call it conventional attribution, is that it's not measuring for incrementality. Now, the traditional measurement attribution would track and count conversions, sales that would have occurred anyway, so without any interaction with your ads. So this notion of incrementality, I think, is also being talked about a whole lot more. And why do we want to be able to focus on incrementality? Because if you're able to focus your budgets on what's incremental and not on what have occurred anyway, your return is going to be greater, and your overall business results will reflect that. So we'll talk a little bit about baseline. So the way to get to understanding baseline, you need to use one of two measurement frameworks. One would be marketing mix modeling, or one would be incrementality tests. Those are two measurement frameworks that look at incrementality and let you understand what is the actual incremental contribution. And just one last point on baseline. Baseline is impacted by a business's tenure and a business's brand, strength of brand. Businesses with strong brand equity recall will have a relatively high baseline because people will come back without the need for ads. So I think they sometimes call it the sort of the performance trap. Unfortunately, it means that if you're not building brand and your baseline is decreasing, you're having to then chase that business with your performance budgets. So, I think this has been spoken about at length at this event, that need for brand as well as performance. And I think to be able to prove that out, you need, the right measurement capability. So here's an example of incremental measurement in practice. We can see here the I in this instance stands for incremental. So what we can see here for the channels highlighted in red is that the incremental revenue is obviously considerably lower than the overall revenue that's being attributed to a channel. And if we start looking at incremental ROAS versus the attribution or platform-based ROAS, we can see that for certain channels that incremental ROAS is indeed much lower. So and for certain channels, it's the inverse, where the incremental ROAS is actually much higher than that channel is going to be given credit for via sort of traditional attribution. So there's a clue here on how businesses could optimize towards a metric that will lead to better overall results, incremental growth, incremental results. One additional point to call out as well is with marketing mix modeling, MMM, it's looking at a much longer historical view window. So I don't want to call it a look back window because it's not, but rather than being limited to 7 days, 28 days, you've got a 2-year window which allows you to account for top of funnel and brand channels as well, such as CTV in this example. So to summarize the attribution trap, there's hidden waste. There's overspending. There's very likely overspending on high performing channels. Your view of growth is obscured. The winning tactics aren't being seen and are probably being underfunded because their impact isn't immediately visible. And then there's the loss of confidence between marketing and finance due to the sort of lack of confidence in what the marketing reporting is outputting using those traditional methods. So this is sort of the state of affairs. Now, diving a bit deeper into that marketing and finance gap, we think, and speaking to brands and the brand, the CMOs, the marketing directors, the performance marketing heads that we speak to on the brand side are very keen to be able to adapt and be able to speak in terms that align across those two teams. And the gap, just to explain sort of the gap that we see exists time and time, again, is that Marketing is obviously measuring on performance, is measuring for total conversions, total conversion value, and claiming that as the result of a marketing investment. What finance is valuing more is the incremental revenue. Efficiency, in attribution, we would look at a blended ROAS, which is again your overall, return divided by your investment. But being able to focus on the incremental ROAS, so the non-double counted ROAS, is way more valuable to the business and to other stakeholders in the business. Marginal ROAS, particularly, and just to explain what marginal ROAS is in contrast to incremental ROAS. Marginal ROAS is something that you can derive using econometric modeling to look at what is the return on my next dollar in this channel. And it's actually factoring in the saturation that you might be experiencing in certain channels as well. And profitability. So, it's one of the, we work with a lot of retail clients, and being able to focus in on profit and be able to report on incremental profit by a channel versus maybe marketing contribution margin is also hugely beneficial for bridging that gap and focusing, aligning the business across those two functions. So I mentioned we work extensively with retail, and so many retailers today are omnichannel, meaning they're selling through their own e-com site, in store through retail channels, online marketplaces. So there's a plethora of sales channels, and traditional measurement is looking at these in individual silos, because that's sort of what is what you can do with traditional attribution. But of course, it would be better to have a single source of truth across everything. So of course, at a channel level, you're going to want to be able to optimize and execute your strategy. But really understanding holistically if there are efficiencies, if there are synergies, if there are positive halo effects between those channels. This is sort of the missing piece with a lot of current attribution and measurement strategies in businesses. We've heard it from some really large institutions again this week, just how siloed all of the measurement, all of the data is. So by a halo effect, just to put that into a practical example, and a lot of these, what we also set to do is a lot of these theories are hypotheses that a lot of brands and marketers, agencies have, that that your D2C ad spend is likely driving some business on Amazon, right? It's kind of logical, but having the measurement tools to be able to measure that is often missing. So inversely, is there a halo effect of your in-store retail media on your D2C sales? So there's looking at a unified measurement framework and using additional tools. These are also some of the additional insights and value that you can return to advertisers and marketers. In terms of profitability, selling through marketplaces is less profitable for a brand. There are higher costs. So if there's a way that a brand can shift existing customers to D2C from marketplace, that's going to be a more profitable decision. So we see and we help brands measure those two different cohorts, new customers and existing customers, and understanding how best to drive those to the channels that you want to service them on and want to transact with them on. So yeah, just some really interesting thoughts there around omnichannel, which is more complicated, where I think more advanced measurement is really needed. Let's talk about inefficiencies and wastage. Two things that we all want to reduce. Or we need to identify it first, and we want to reduce it. These are very typical numbers that we see that across when we're looking at incremental revenue. So we've stripped out baseline revenue that would have occurred from non-media variables, that 60% of that incremental revenue is often coming from around 30% of budget. So the inverse of that means that approximately 70% of your revenue is coming from, 40% of your revenue is coming from 70% of your budget. So there's very likely inefficiencies and wastage there. So helping businesses, brands, agencies sort of get to the bottom of that and understand where there's wastage will allow you to plan more profitably or plan for much better performance. We see across our platform media budget wastage ranging between 20 and 40%. And this isn't data quality wastage. This is effectiveness wastage, where dollars spent in certain channels could be allocated elsewhere for incremental impact. So this is a huge opportunity to instantly boost overall marketing performance. What are the causes of wastage? There are many, but very commonly we would see maybe paid search cannibalizing organic search. We might see social budgets retargeting a lot of existing customers. So there's, again, sort of a lack of incrementality there. Or over-investing in already saturated channels because there's a missing view of if that channel is still driving more return at that spend level. I think this is always a sort of quite a sobering number, and it's also something that can be fixed very, very, very quickly, very easily. So, sort of the solution that is being talked about widely in the industry is to use a unified marketing measurement framework, and I think it's great. The big ad platforms who historically have relied on touch-based attribution are all aligned that it's a complex measurement is complex, and it requires an arsenal of tools to be used together to be able to pinpoint what is truly working. And the reason we need a combination of these solutions is that each has they all have strengths and weaknesses. So there's a widely held view that the optimal mix consists of marketing mix modeling, incrementality tests or experiments, and still using attribution in some context, because, and I'll touch on that in a moment, due to the sort of granularity and the real-time nature of attribution. I like the comment here about in the meta quote there, that there's a democratization of access to these measurement tools as well. So Google and Meta have obviously released and have had for some time open source MMM models, so Robin on the Meta side and Meridian from Google. These tools have never been more accessible for brands, marketers, agencies, and platforms to experiment with measuring for incrementality. And I think providing this service to the end client is going to add value and show the value of the channels that you might represent as well in the room. Just our definition and from an educational point of view, what exactly is unified marketing measurement? As I mentioned, it is this combination of these three frameworks, three separate measurement methodologies, consisting of MMM, which is a longer term view, statistical econometric modeling, to understand the contribution of all marketing channels and their contribution on sales or any business KPI. Incrementality testing, which are A/B testing, but there are some more scientific methods there as well around. Geo experiments are probably the most unbiased way to run incrementality studies. So geo experiments are will validate and quantify incremental growth at a campaign level. These can be quite time consuming to set up. So, and there are some opportunity costs sometimes of running these experiments. So that's why you want to use some of these methodologies sparingly and at the right time. Attribution, we've talked about, it is signal-based. So it is only a sample of really what's happening out there, but it will give you granular, ad level, keyword level, real-time reporting. Now, at Lifesight, we've added sort of the causal elements to attribution and also to MMM. Causal is a more robust scientific way to understand a cause and effect between an action and an outcome. And the way we at Lifesight make the attribution more causal is by overlaying the incrementality factors that we can derive from MMM and incrementality testing, and overlaying that or calibrating your attribution with that. So just to get a more incremental read of that attribution data as well. So yeah, the funnel and look, I think if we did a show of hands, we're kind of split on whether we still believe that the funnel looks this way. But I think the point here being that using this combination of measurement methodologies, you have the ability to measure full funnel. And measuring brand, measuring the contribution of top of funnel has been just a resounding problem and pain point at this event, and I think it still continues to be. Moving on, we touched on the problems, the attribution trap. Now, with the unified measurement approach, there are solutions. So by implementing a unified measurement approach, we can help identify incremental channels from non-incremental channels and your investment in those channels, help you reinvest in those top of funnel incremental channels with confidence, and lastly, get the business backing to invest in those channels. That's definitely been a problem. That's definitely been a pain point. How do I show the value of my top of funnel so I can get more budget for top of funnel? So massively important and helpful. And then the forecasting element. So marketing mix modeling is also a predictive modeling tool. So once you understand what's happened for the last 2 to 5 years, you can start using that to predict future outcomes. So being able to forecast and plan is also sort of I think changing the way marketers are able to plan and execute. So visually, in this example, being able to increase spend in those channels that using conventional attribution don't have the best metrics allows you to make those more profitable decisions backed up by data. So this is an example, a mid-market. This is a quick snapshot of how a unified marketing measurement approach can be used for planning and for forecasting. So, and this is for a mid-market retailer, e-com only, and they were looking to use incrementality to better allocate their budget to maximize overall revenue, improve incremental ROAS, and also test how accurately the model could predict the future, the actual end outcome. And you can see that there were two, and these are all plans that can be created before any budget is spent. So this is pre-spending $1, you can model out what your return will be from that particular media mix. So we can see there was a conservative and a moderate recommendation. The brand opted to go with the moderate allocation recommendation, which increased overall revenue by over 12%. Incremental ROAS was up 18%. And I think what really, gives a lot of businesses, brands, marketers confidence in a model and in this way of measuring is the accuracy of the forecasting. So the actual results were within 96% of that forecasted value for that next quarter. So we've got quite a few more case studies like this on our website, and if you wanted to grab any case studies, please have a little look at this QR code. And the point to make here as well is that while retail is a big category, there are applications for this measurement for auto, financial services, you name it, QSR. There is an opportunity for better unified marketing measurement. It's day 4 of an event. My voice is expiring. Now I need to go back. So to summarize, just to wrap up, using unified marketing measurement, or re-looking at your marketing, re-looking at your measurement, there's an ability to turn measurement into a growth engine, and to help you with the things that we've outlined today. Being able to prove incremental ROI, maximize your media efficiency, prove out the incrementality of everything you're doing. As an agency, as an ad platform, I think that's also a huge opportunity to use incrementality tests to help you show the incremental performance of your ad products and your channels, and aligning marketing and finance teams. I think that's definitely a big discussion point, and something that's helping a lot of our customers. So thank you so much. Thanks for everyone's attention and time. It's been great talking to you. If you have any questions, I'd love to take any questions. Yeah. We have 2 minutes if anyone had, yeah, hello.
Where are you getting the social media signals from?
Yeah. So it's all first party data. So the modeling that we're performing is using spend and impression data that you would provide us from your ad platforms. Yeah. And it's modeled, rather than being ID based. So that's probably the main difference with the social measurement. If that's all, I wish everyone a great last day at Advertising Week. Thank you.